Hello and welcome to my Yu-Gi-Oh channel. Make sure to subscribe for more daily Yu-Gi-Oh content. Well, here doesn't time go fast. Now it seems to be that it's been a year since the official release of the new Yu-Gi-Oh Rush Duels, and I'm really surprised it's been a year. It doesn't seem to have, been that long. But then again, with obviously the coronavirus, we've not really had much of a game state, and I'm hoping in this upcoming year we'll be able to see some marked improvements and maybe some more support coming down the line, especially since it should start getting an English release. Usually the difference between the original anime, which is the OCG in Japan, and when it gets dubbed in English, that tends to be about a year, and I think last time I checked they were on episode 42. Typically per season they do anywhere between 50 and 52 episodes, so we might be about 10 weeks down the line, but also around this time they do tend to give some spoilers. You get a little bit of an anime trailer as well, so we're waiting on that. But in the meantime, I'm actually going to shortly explain what Rush Duels are. So the differences from the Master Duel, which is the original series from Yu-Gi-Oh, the rulings are going to be a lot different, and these are more like speed duels. So at the beginning, you start your turn, you draw until you have 5 cards in your hand. The first player draws on their first turn in Rush Duel. Every turn you restock to have a guaranteed 5 cards. If you already have at least 5 cards in your hand, then you still get to draw 1 more card. There is also no hand size limit, but you need to be aware that you need to keep your hand as thinned as possible so you can continually draw into some of your other cards. It's also important to notice about the normal summon limits. You can now normal summon more than 2 monsters and tribute summon into your boss monster in the very same turn. There's no one normal summon limit anymore. The third change is cards resolve instantly. Immediately after paying the cost for your card, you can resolve its effects. This means chains do not exist. You cannot respond to the activation of a card in Rush Duels, only what that card does. This means you should have a more simplified game state, so you won't have queries from judges and you will have a much easier time of it. This is meant for some of the newer novice duelists, as opposed to some of the experts who might find this kind of state a bit too simplistic. As for deck size, for Rush Duels they have the same deck size as Master Duels. It's a 40 card minimum with a 60 card maximum. While there is an extra deck, we do not currently have any extra deck monsters, so keep an eye out for that. I'm sure that's somewhere down the corner. And the next thing is to look at the field. Rush Duels take place on 3 column fields with zones for your deck, your graveyard, your extra deck, and the field spell. You start with 8,000 life points, and turns only have 4 phases. So this is the draw, the main, the battle, and the end phase. So in terms of comparing this to the original series, you're getting rid of both the standby phase and you're getting rid of main phase 2. In terms of legend cards, this is a new addition to Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush Duels. You can only have 1 copy of 1 legend card in your deck. This means if you run 1 copy of Blue Eyes White Dragon, you cannot then run 1 copy of Trap Hole. With Rush Duels, they introduced a brand new mechanic called Maximum Monsters. They have 3 pieces of them. The 2 side pieces will be marked as an L and an R in their name, while the central piece will have a maximum attack stat. Effects marked and maximum mode only apply when they're maximum summoned. As for maximum summons themselves, when you have all 3 pieces of the same maximum monster in your hand, you can special summon them all at once in maximum mode. This is called a maximum summon. If you have any monsters on your field when you maximum summon, they're all sent straight to the graveyard. Now, maximum mode. A maximum summon monster is treated as a single monster with the maximum attack stat and level of the central piece, and the effects of all 3. However, they take up all 3 zones of your field, so you cannot summon any more monsters while you have one out, unless you use it as a single tribute. Like Master Duel's Link monsters, they do not have a defense stat. So here's also a series of deck suggestions. This is based on what's currently in the game and what's available to players. 7 Roads. Powered up 7 Roads Magician by building up attributes in your graveyard. Protect your spellcasters with a powerful Dark Liberation. The protagonist's main theme, so regularly supported, has synergy with the legend card Dark Magician. Lidacross. Use the Lidacross bosses to field high-level spellcaster and warrior type monsters, who in turn power up your fields further. It synergizes well with level 5 or 6 spellcasters, including Hilt the Noble Arms Bearer and Sheath the Scabbard of the Holy Swordsman. Striking Dragons. Dragons focus on damage via multiple strikes, with a toolbox of level 7 bosses to deal with any situation. With access to Dragon's Setupper and Dragon's Upsetter, alongside Phoenix Dragon and Triad Drago. This deck has access to some of the strongest cards in the game, clear maximums with Dragonic Pressure, and even recover the legend card Blue Eyes White Dragon from your graveyard. There's a reason we say it twice. Psychic Museum Position. Manipulate life points to pull off powerful fields. The lower you are, the stronger you are. Use cards like Romance Pick to keep looping resources to your field. Use Esperade in a pinch to clear away your opponent's field. Then use Chemical Cure Blue to recover life points to stay alive. Fiendish Commanders. The best offense is a strong defense. Prove it with a deck focused on 0 attack stat. Control the board with Yamarula's Lockdown. Push the game with Kimarula's Direct Attack or Semarula's Swarm capabilities. It works well with the legend card Shield and Sword and even contains support for it. Masked Fiery Noodle. Strengthen your pyro monsters with Gok Boot. Burn your opponent with Kaidama Gok Boot. Has synergy with more pyro cards like the field clearing Cosmic String Noodle Droid Dress and Magmax Mantle Ayurveda. Bubble Era. Go back to the 80s and party all night with young light aqua versions of classic monsters. Keep your life points topped up with Dying Keto the Gold Digging Master while clearing resources your opponent held back with Dying Keto the Prison Master. It works well with a deck destruction/stall strategy. Completely outlive your opponent. Beast Gear World. Use the field spell Beast Gear World to nerf common types while bolstering your own Beast Warrior type monsters. Bring out the powerful Catapult Devil Kong, play your opponent's defenses, and run over their vulnerable monsters with King Convoy Legion. This theme can even turbo out its bosses with Beast Summoner or Trike Fox. Royal Demons. Tribute Summon beyond Tribute Summon. Use level 5+ as tributes to field powerful fiend types that swing the duel, including the frightening Royal Demons Heavy Metal. It has good synergy with cards like Beast Gear World and the legend card Summoned Skull. Fish types. Manipulate stats with fields like Yumi and Big Ocean. Use Big Magaroom's effect to make your little fish attack directly, then use Survival Swordfish to boost them before they attack. It's got lots of stat manipulation all over the board. Winged Beasts. Manipulate your opponent's attributes to suit your needs. Power up your monsters with Darkness Crested Hawk or weaken your opponents with Lightning Volcondor. It has access to the boss Turbo Monster Beast Summoner to help accelerate the strategy. Providence. Dig through your deck with the Tron monsters to turbo to specific cards. Summon the ultimate Cyverse Yugioh the Heavenly Tree Dragon to control the game with its high attack and constant damage. Dwell Chairs. Flood your grave with 0 attack monsters to fulfill the conditions on Throne of Darkness. Field powerful bosses intended for one-hit KOs. It has synergy with the Ruler's Strategies cards along with the legend card Shield and Sword. Washing. Revolve around the White Foam Bleach Motor spell. Burn your opponent repeatedly while weakening their monster. Attempt to deck them out with the Budget Santa, a deck that totally isn't trying to get you to cheat. Thunderbeat. Small Thunder-type beetles that hit big. Burn with Thunderbeat. Gift. Destroy their field with Storm Calling Thunderbeat. It has good synergy with Dark Rooker and the legend card Red Eyes Black Dragon. Even able to revive it with the Flute of Falling Daemon. Cats. A Schrodinger's gimmick. Stun your opponent's attack with the unpredictable state-of-the-art card of their deck, then go for direct attacks with Odd Eyes Twin-tailed Cat. Use Beast Summoner to turbo out your Beast-type bosses, and cease the Mighty King of Bestial Wings to nerf your opponents for a big offensive. Mythic Sword. Power up normal worms with Shangri-La. Use the Ace Monster Build Dragon to revive normal worms and build high stat boards. Close the game with the maximum monster Worm Excavator. Giant Revolution. Spark a huge revolution with 100 attack insects. Powerful traps like Giant Revolution protect them off turn, while Rebelliant brings them up to boss monster level to go on the offensive. Music Maidens. A sub-strategy of warriors focusing on wind attribute. Channel the power of your normals in your grave to power up your opponents. To power up your wind warriors with Trumpet Tonfa. Really cut at your opponent's stats with Nun Clarinet. Dodge your opponent's traps with Ensemble Fighter and throw in some piercing damage to push the game with massive damage. Tech Deity. Machines that pierce through defenses. Solid defense with Newsflash Machine Toughdroid, which could be revived with Reporter Soul. Push the game with the protagonist Tech Deity series with the Ace Monster Mirror Innovator or the Maximum Monster Magna Overroad. Maximum only. Feast or Famine. Focus entirely on maximum summons to overwhelm your opponent. Draw heavily with Heavenly Protection while doing extra damage with Tension Max. Burn. Use the devastating Dark Rooker to clear your opponent's back row and deal heavy damage before blocking with his beefy backside. Loop Dragon's Upsetter and Set Upper to repeatedly summon him with little cost. Then finish the duel with Inferno Fire Blast from the legend card Red Eyes Black Dragon. And Dragon Caster. The generally accepted meta deck. Use a Spellcaster Core to push dragon bosses. Take advantage of the powerful offense of Dragius the Striking Dragon with the powerful defense of Dark Liberation. Now, in terms of legend cards, there have been a few, so I will clarify a few of them. We have the original Blue Eyes White Dragon, a 3000 attack monster that is huge, especially with 2500 defense to back it up. Every deck should include a way to get past this card, and it can serve as an easy extra boss monster monster to any deck that needs one. Try running with Phoenix Dragon to get it back from the graveyard. Dark Magician. While weaker in attack than Blue Eyes, he comes with some powerful spell cards. Use Dark Magic attack to clear all of your opponent's spell and trap cards, or use Thousand Knives to get rid of your opponent's monsters outside the battle phase. Mostly fits into spellcaster type decks, but does have synergy with most of Seven Rose Magician support. Red Eyes Black Dragon. The weakest 2 tribute legend, but comes with some powerful support. Black Dragon's Chick lets you bring it out at little cost, even dodging anti-tribute strategies. Inferno Fire Blast lets you do huge damage outside the battle phase to dodge powerful battle traps, and is even able to be used multiple times in one turn. Best placed in Dragon or Burn type decks. Summoned Skull. 2 tribute stats on a 1 tribute body. Summoned Skull is an easy choice if you just want quick stats. It synergizes well with Beast Gear World, which places him at 2800 attack, while Blue Eyes goes down to 2700. It works well with any deck running Beast Gear World or Fiend decks that can recover him and work him into their strategies. Jinzo. 100 less attack than Skull for 300 more defense. Overall, still a very strong monster, especially with the continuous effect to destroy trap as long as he's about. He even comes with the same Beast Gear World synergy, placing him up to 2700 attack as long as it's up. It's powerful in decks that struggle to deal with trap cards that can be placed just about anywhere. Shield and Sword. Even if the effect seems weak, it can quickly turn the tide of a duel. Combined with support cards like Sword and Shield to recover it, it becomes an easy staple for decks focused around a low attack, high defense strategy. Card Destruction. The classic deck destruction card. Clear your opponent's hand of things they may have saved while stocking up your graveyard with what you've got of your own. Good for cycling through your deck to get to cards you want to see, or setting up your graveyard for powerful effects using the grave as a resource. Monster Reincarnation. A classic recovery card. In exchange for having one less card in your hand, you get to reliably get something back from your graveyard. It's very useful to help recover maximum pieces to finish your hand, or recover an ace monster to push for game. It can probably be used in just about any deck. And lastly, Trap Hole. The easy choice. One slot in your deck dedicated to telling your opponent no. In a game with no negotiation, Trap Hole easily compares to the Solemns of Masters format. Also include in your deck unless you can justify one of the other legends, especially used in any decks that want to protect them something on the field. And in terms of generic staples, so we've got examples such as Fodder Generators. It gets you an extra card into your hand to use as a discard or tribute. The go-to padding monsters if you need more low levels. Examples of this are Kuribot and Dragon's Setupper / Dragon's Upsetter. More like this exist, but are more recently being balanced to be locked to their type in some manner. Stat Manipulating Fodder. Low-level monsters that mess with your opponent's stats. These can be useful to give your deck's boss monsters an extra boost over monsters they would normally be able to beat. Examples include Thunder the Lightning and Seven Rose Mage. Generic bosses. Remember that you can technically throw any boss monster into any deck. Monsters such as Dragius the Striking Dragon or Wicked Shadow Dark Rooker can be used to bolster the amount of high-level monsters you have and provide powerful effects. Alongside generic bosses that are not locked by requirements, make sure to look for synergies with monsters you wouldn't normally consider to. Dark Liberation Core. By including a few spellcasters, typically including Mystic Dealer, Seven Rose Mage, and anything else that may best suit your playstyle, you can run the incredibly powerful Dark Liberation in any deck. This works better in decks with less required cards, using the low-level spellcasters as your fodder to get the bosses you're running up. Hammer Shot. Generic spell or trap removal deals with any back row at the cost of 1 discard, often used alongside the non-generic removal to boost to 6 copies. Definitely used if your deck doesn't have access to an alternative. Ancient Barrier. An alternative to Hammer Shot. While it doesn't get rid of your opponent's set spells or problem traps or fields, it does mean the selected monster won't be threatened by the likes of Dark Liberation or counter-offensive Dragon Strike. It's also capable of recovering monsters that would usually be locked in your graveyard after use, if your deck is concerned about that. Geological Survey. A quick glance at the top of your deck can completely alter the next turn, helping make sure the next card you send from the deck to the graveyard is something you want, or rejecting a hand in favour of a new one. For the lengthier games of Rush Duels, this can help prevent you from getting into a pinch. Psycho Barrier. While less useful for most decks, if your deck has needed to get certain things in the graveyard, this can help set you up faster. Heavenly Protection. Clear your hand of monsters you don't need, and if you send enough, draw a couple of replacements. It works best with maximum decks, but also provides a way to push cards from your hand to the graveyard for additional effects. As for stat changes, various cards such as Right Magic and Tension Max let you manipulate the stats of you or your opponent's monsters. If you need an extra bit of damage regularly, consider looking into these. Piercing cards. Very simply, these cards grant a monster piercing damage damage. It can be very useful if you want to work through your opponent's defense mode monsters. So the most common one is piercing. It's the most basic, with the ability to just give your monster the ability to pierce into your opponent's monsters and do additional damage. Greater piercing has a higher cost to it and more specific requirements, but it does provide piercing to multiple monsters. It's great for more specialized decks that want to attack defense position monsters. And of course you've got Tension Max. It has the same cost as Greater Piercing, but it comes with an attack boost too. The big benefit of this card is if it's used on a level 10 monster. It also does a big amount of burn damage, which is 1,000 points. Now if we look at field spells, most field spells are designed generically as these affect every monster on the field. Even a small stat boost of 200 can add up, and it can help support strong monsters to become even harder to take down. They also make easy discard fodder when you already have one active, and can replace the one already in your field spell zone, clear themselves out of your hand. Look to see what field spells can help your deck. Spirit Shackles, generic attack reduction trap, very effective against mono type decks. Use this to help keep your monsters alive for longer. The go to padding trap, but remember it'll be less effective on hybrid decks such as Zero Attack or Dragoncaster. Counter Bomb, punish your opponent for attacking. Clear your hand of bricking cards while making your opponent take damage based off the level of the attacking monster. It can be a nice trap to bolster your deck if you're lacking cards. Lost Cat, while more debatable on how good it is, Lost Cat can be used to give you a chance of negating any one attack. If you're strapped for ways to protect monsters, this is an option. However, you should consider your chances of success seriously when debating usage. Echoing Whispers, the graveyard plays a valuable resource for many decks in rush duels, many powerful effects requiring cards in the graveyard to activate. This trap lets you mass clear monsters from either graveyard, either getting rid of monsters from your opponents to prevent their effects, or recovering monsters from your own to restock your deck. Make sure to think about how draws will be affected by what you return. And Triangle Reborn, a powerful trap that can bring back almost any monster from your graveyard. Very powerful for almost any deck, its requirements being met by most of your standard fodder monsters. Remember, the monster you summon doesn't have to be the same type as the monsters you shuffle. So what do you think of Yu-Gi-Oh! Rush Duels 1 year on? Are you excited to see the brand new cards? What do you think of the Maxim monsters, the legend cards? Is there anything you've been particularly surprised about? And what are you hoping to see in the brand new year as we look